Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Sick Podcast Recruits Draftcast. You might notice that we're looking pretty nice today. We'll get to that a bit later. Guys, it's going to be a fun show today. We're going to be looking at some overrated and underrated defensemen in this year's draft class. We also have a trade to talk about. There's already a trade regarding the 2024 draft picks between the Chicago Blackhawks and the New York Islanders. We're going to give our thoughts about that. We got the Memorial Cup starting today. Again, can't really talk about the games because they haven't happened yet, but we are pumped about that. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Recruits Draftcast.
With our first pick in the 2022 NHL Draft, les Canadiens de Montréal sont fiers de repêcher from the Slovakian national team and TPS Turku, Juraj Slafkovsky.
The sickest NHL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
That's right. Producer Shayne here, joined by my fantastic co-host Grant McCagg and Hockey Jesus, a.k.a. Rocco Zappia. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Oh, caught him off guard with that, did you?
You know what? I'm feeling holy today. Not holy anything specific, just generally holy.
Yeah. What did you rewatch that last Swiss game or what?
No, I was just reading the comments over. If someone's going to call me Jesus, I'm going to run with that. That's a compliment as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, that's a compliment. I'll take it.
You got the
Jesus
halo in the background,
Jesus didn't wear a ball cap, but anyway.
Well, you see what they're calling you in there. You would take Jesus too. You'd take that trade, I think.
Yeah.
No. They're easy on you this week. It's Shayne who got in trouble. That's okay.
Yeah, that's true.
I had fun. I like reading the comments, replying to people. So keeps it entertaining.
That's right.
I stopped reading comments, I don't know, 5 years ago, something like that. Just for
that
health
was
reasons.
Doctor's order for your blood pressure, though. That's why.
Yeah. The odd one sneaks in. I did like the one at the very top. Sometimes I notice when I'm going to you can't help it. You see one comment anyway. And I saw the Hockey Jesus one, so that was good for a laugh.
Way too good. I had to use that today. But yeah, as I mentioned, you might notice that we got some pretty sweet gear on us today. And it's all thanks to our new sponsor, Insta Customs. Insta Customs are proud supporters of Recruits and the Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast, the highest rated apparel print shop in Canada at 4.9 Google stars, specializing in direct-to-garment printing and embroidery. Located just minutes away from the Bell Center on Rue Stanley in Montreal. Please visit their website at instacustoms.com if you want to look as fresh as we do. Guys,
I have to talk about getting this gear.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind.
It's beautiful.
I'm getting mine next week. I'm excited.
That's right.
I got left out in the cold today. That's okay.
I placed the order at the start of this week. And there's 40 to 50 items, different clothing, hats, mugs. And you got your stuff last night.
I did.
Delivered personally by Nick, the owner.
Wow.
And shipped out yesterday my stuff, and I got it today. So, I mean, it's incredible turnaround. The stuff looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. They just did a great job on this stuff, and I'm more than pleased. Nick, a couple years back, made me out like the hat that I always wear before and stuff, and the shirts were from Nick from Insta Customs. He did them for free. He just did them up and said, "Hey, you need some gear," and did it. So great guy, great staff. I dealt with them all week, and there was, there were a number of things that had to get adjusted and this and that, and they were more than helpful. So I highly recommend. You need anything, any gear, you want something up, you want some gear, some of our gear. Nick will fix you up, and we'll take care of you. So great business.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Nick. Big shout out to Insta Customs for making us look good. We appreciate it. Grant, you didn't need anything else to make you look good, but
that's true.
Oh, it's always nice. It's always nice.
Hey, what was that look? Okay. We'll let it pass. He didn't say anything.
Jesus.
I guess when you're hockey Jesus, it's hard to look as good as him, right?
Yeah. This morning, we didn't really expect to be talking about a trade, but here we are. The New York Islanders and the Chicago Blackhawks have made a draft trade. So New York receives the 20th pick, 54th, and 61st in exchange for 18 and 50. So essentially, for a combined 6 spots, they trade another second-round pick for Chicago. Anyway, Chicago moves up a combined 6 spots, and they lose another second-round pick to that. It's strange because it's a month away from the draft, right? This is a typical draft night trade that we see when it's a player that is still available on the board. Like, okay, we got to go get him. Let's move up. Doing so a month ahead, that's a bit strange. So I want to get your takes on this. Obviously, it's hard to tell who's a winner because we don't know who's picking, but it's just a weird trade, right?
Yeah, well, I've got a take on it. Thanks a lot, Chicago and New York, for making me have to redo my frickin' mock draft for the draft guide. That's first of all. Like 5, it wasn't. Could it have just been 1 for 1? Like 1 pick for 1? No. And all it, like I do a 2-round mock draft for the draft guy, and I said, well, I'm doing it ahead of time, gung ho, gonna get it done early this year, so I've got to redo every one of those 5. So thanks a lot, GMs of those 2 teams. You're Lou and what's his face there? The guy that Mr. Anonymous at the last year at the draft. Remember?
Yeah. I saw that. He got interviewed on the street there. Yeah.
But I obviously Chicago thinks, there's a guy in the first round and there's a guy in the second round that maybe teams just ahead of them might take. That's the only reasoning I can see on this. I got looking at it, and funny, I had the Islanders taking Tanner Howe at 50th overall in my first mock, and it makes me wonder if, because that's about 50 is about where he might go. He was who did he play with last year on the Regina Pats?
A certain Mr. Bedard.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
and they actually had pretty good chemistry together. Just makes me wonder if, and maybe it's even they'll try to move up even again in the second round. But it makes it a little easier. Teams are always a little more willing to move down 2 to 5 spots, than they are to move like 10 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And who knows, it could be if Tanner Howe's there at 45, they really want, they want that guy that had good chemistry with Bedard. They move up again from 50 to 45 on draft day. Yeah. And the team says, okay, I'll move back 5 spots. It's easier to get it to convince a team to move back 5 or 3 or 4 or 2 than it is to get them to drop 10. So we'll see on draft day. Maybe I'm just, it's obviously it's speculation, but I have a feeling maybe Chicago wants to get Tanner Howe in the second round, and they didn't think with either the 54th or 61st that they get him. But I do believe they also have another second round pick. So there's also the possibility that, they're going to package the 50th and the 34th to move up, with the 20th to move up into the top 12 or something. Who knows? But
yeah,
Chicago's got lots of draft capital. They probably figured, hey, we don't really need 6 picks in the top 64 because typically maybe 50% of them turn out to be NHLers in the first place. So you get more premium picks and fewer total in the top 60, and try to land with those picks. Try to land NHLers, all of them. So interesting. Not happy that it happened a month before the trade for reasons I've explained, but hey, hopefully there's no more of these till draft day.
Yeah, I've seen theories too about maybe the Islanders wanting to acquire more capital for maybe a bigger trade down the line.
Possibly.
Listen, we'll get a better idea on June 28th when it's the actual draft and we see what pans out. But what were you going to say there, Rocco?
Well, I think that there's another scenario that I think might even be more likely than either of those, almost, is because
impossible
to me. Yeah, impossible to be more right than Grant. That's for
correct.
Oh my goodness. You just don't interrupt hockey, Jesus. Like, I'm gonna use that for the rest of the time.
Sorry, gonna happen a lot.
I think Chicago's probably got. I think that the 18 from 2018 is the key here, because I think Chicago, they may have a drop off at that tier, right? Maybe it's 16, maybe it's 17, maybe it's 18 on the nose, but for whatever reason, like, I think Chicago seems dead set on being in that top 18 and having that pick move up those 2 spots. I think those 2 spots is the key. And every year there's a draft. There's a drop off. I remember it happened to Ottawa when they took Lassie Thompson. I think Thomas Harley was right before, and there's a pretty clear drop off from Thomas Harley to Lassie Thompson. But that could be where the point that Chicago's identified in the draft, where there being a major drop from that second big cohort of players into a cohort that ranges maybe from 20 into around pick 50, right? So in their mind, let's just say that I'm right there, that they've identified, let's say 17 or 18 players, and that's their target. So maybe their next cohort runs from 19 right up until pick 51. Let's say that too, right? So, and because that has been commonly talked about, right around pick 50, there's a drop off in this draft as well, just as there is somewhere between 15 and 20, as most people will say. So Chicago's right in the midpoint there, right at the drop off point for both those cohorts of talent levels. And what they're doing, by giving up 61, it's possible that they've bumped up into the bottom end of a better cohort, both of those 2 picks, and all it cost them was pick 61, which is outside the tier of players that maybe they've identified as potential impact NHL players. So if you look at it from that perspective, if I've got an opportunity, if I could say, okay, you can guarantee, you've got the top tier, and you see that second tier runs to the mid tiers. Okay, you can move from tier 3 to tier 2, and then you can move from tier 4 to tier 3, and it's going to cost.
We get it.
Oh, sorry. You can go on for 15 minutes. If I go on for 3, that's too much.
Get rid of the trade thing there now. I think we got it memorized. Shayne. It's there, so we can see the blood rise in hockey Jesus there. That's a good. It's quite possible that they have someone targeted that they think, oh well, he may be gone. He might go at 18 or 19 instead of 20. As far as every team's got a different list. Like this year especially, there's no consensus whatsoever. So I don't see them thinking, well, our top 18 is going to be the same as the Islanders' top 18, so we better move up and exchange picks with them. But yeah, I think obviously they think that there's a player that may not be there at 20, they want it to move up a couple spots. But it's also possible that because you'll notice that they're one of the few teams that has made draft day trades in the last couple of years, like the Doc, the maneuvering with the Doc deal with the Islanders again and with the Canadians to move up and down in the top 20. And wouldn't surprise me if this involves another trade at the on draft day, where they move up maybe anywhere from 2 to 5 spots and really get the guy that they're targeting, perhaps in the top 15 even. Because what I've been told, and Bob's usually pretty good when he gets his polling, that there was a distinct top 15 for him. Is what he got. That was the background he got from it when he polled the scouts, that there's 15 guys that sort of rise above the rest. And, okay, they've moved up the 2 spots. Now they're talking to that team again saying, okay. And the team will say, well, if our 3 guys that we like are still there on the board at 14, we'll make that trade with you and move back to 18. Or when it's 15th pick, we'll move back to 18. You move up to 15, get your guy. We get one of our guys, and everybody's happy. But definitely, there's some stuff going on there that I think is going to lead to other moves being made on draft day. I hope so, because it would suck if all the draft trades are made beforehand, and it's just every team makes their pick. I know the Slavkovsky was exciting. That was an exciting draft because there was trades made. But then last year, like I was on with Tony saying, how boring was that draft? We're sitting there and because there's no trades, not like the NFL where every second team's making a trade. But
especially since this is the last centralized draft, right?
Yeah,
go out with a bang. You're in Vegas too. Let's give a good show. I think this is
the league ruining the draft, making it like what a joke.
That's another topic completely. But yeah, I mean, hopefully this is a precedent to what we can expect in late June. A high octane, active, full of action draft. Fingers crossed. But I think it is very possible that we see a lot more action, and I do hope that is the case. So how about we get into today's little segment, overrated, underrated. You both selected 2 defensemen, one that you consider to be overrated, considering everybody's lists right now, and one do you consider to be underrated. So we'll start with the big kahuna here. Player that on a lot of lists is mocked in the top 3. So Grant, let's get into Artem Levshunov, your overrated prospect.
Yeah, well, okay, we're going to show some highlights here where where his decision making is a concern, be it out of position, being a little casual in his defensive play, under pressure, maybe turning the pucks over. Mostly a lot of it is positional and just being a little too casually defensively. This kid thinks offense first, and that's one of the reasons why he put up good points this year in NCAA. But obviously, it's one of the reasons that he's such an attractive piece for teams. It seems like every draft there are guys with good size and speed that are highly coveted that end up getting picked, but don't ever quite live up to the hype. I've done a lot of digging since 2000, just looking at the draft classes and comparing and seeing just how many of the top 6, typically half of the top 6 picks, and this year there are 6 defensemen that are really highly regarded. Mm-hmm. As a rule, every draft out of the top 6, 3 of them turn out to be either busts or disappointments. So what are the 3 of the 6 that everybody's regaling? Good question. I think that Levshunov is, if I had to pick out of the top 6 guys, he's one of the 2 that I would I'm less sure about because of the hockey sense issue for me. Now, I talked to a lot of scouts about it. Most of the ones that I deal with aren't Levshunov fans. One of them likes him. I mean, it's the physical, you know, the skating and size and the point totals, right? Moving into NCAA, putting up good point totals. There is a concern, and I've heard it more than one, is he really the age that he purports to be? Like, that part of the world, there's been some players in the past that their birth certificates weren't necessarily truthful, and it's been out there. I mean, this kid has looked 18 for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, he came over to Green Bay last year, and everyone's saying, there's no way this kid is 16. He just isn't. And so there is that question as well. What if he is like 20 years old? How much better is he going to get from here? So it's one of the concerns, even if it may be unfounded. But one of the scouts I talked to, you know, when I was telling them about how many big mobile defensemen that are picked high end up disappointing because they just were picked too high. And he said, you know, when it comes to defensemen especially, you take the brain. There's a lot of traps. There's a lot of scout traps in the industry. Big, strong, fast, but take the brain. That's what works. That's what translates at the next level. Smart players keep improving. If players are close, which player has the elite sense that they covet? That's who you prefer. You take the guy that's got the sense. That translates better, because at the NHL level, if you have any even minor hockey sense issues, it's only going to get worse at the NHL level. NHL guys that this scout talks to, they think Levshunov, some of them think exceptionally high of him. Some compare him to Werenski, some to Dobson. They think he's going to be a big-time point-producing defenseman. Now, I don't agree, and I have a lot of backing on that. I think that he'll get points, but do I think that he's going to be run a power play? I don't. I think that he's going to be on a power play, maybe a secondary power play, but not be your quarterback. I think NHL coach, the first 2 years here, it's the red carpet's been rolled out for him in Green Bay and in Michigan State. I like Adam Nightingale a lot, but we did have him on the show. And when I showed him a couple of highlights of him jumping up in the play when there was no reason to do it, he said, well, we're letting him do that because you don't want to quell the offensive upside. You don't want to, I think you do. And certainly at the NHL level, they're not going to say, oh, that's okay, Artie, you do what you want. You're so good. You're so much better than everybody else, because he won't be so much better than everybody else at the NHL level. A lot of his points this year came against the easier opponents. He looked better against the easier teams, but when it got down to the nitty-gritty in the playoffs, we saw him struggle some. And I think that's a better indication of what it'll be like in the NHL than against the easier opponents that he played this year. He's going top 12 somewhere. Probably he might go to Chicago, and if he does, I know a lot of scouts, and that includes me, thinks that's too high, that it's a reach. So for those reasons, for him being ranked, you see on so many lists, top 3, top 4. Again, he's a hell of a good prospect. He's going to play in the league. Reminded a bit of Zach Bogosian. He's not as physical as Bogosian, but a bit of similarity there, where he's going to be he's going to play. He'll be a 4-5 for sure, maybe a 3, but top pairing, power play, shut down defenseman. I don't see it from him. I don't think he's going to become a number one defenseman on an NHL team. What do you think, Hockey Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to disagree with the questions about the hockey sense after watching those clips for sure. I mean, you low-lighted some pretty thoughtless plays out there, which that scares me. That scares me from the back end, because the one thing I for sure don't want to have any questions with about my defenseman is their brain. Defensemen can make a game. Having smart defensemen can make a game a lot easier on the forwards. A lot easier. Being in the right spots, getting pucks into the right positions, making the right reads that allow them to attack with speed. All those things are made easier and make the forwards look better if the puck's moving fluently from the back end, right? So if there's they don't have to all be Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox with unbelievable hands and rinky-dink moves. Like, very, very few guys can pull those off in the NHL, and the ones that do win trophies, right? Whether individual or otherwise. So not everyone's going to be doing that. So you're building the majority of your defensemen. They just need to be able to move the puck well. And if you can do that, then move it well and move it smart, and you're going to find success. But if you can't move it smart, you're going to have problems, and the puck's going to go the other way. And it doesn't take a lot. It's one defensive breakdown, one mistake, and the puck's in the back of your net in the NHL. Every single forward in that league is so damn good at this point, right? You make a glaring error, it's in the back of your net. And how many goals a game in the NHL? So if you're making errors that cost you goals, those add up quick, and it's not what you like to see from a guy that's supposed to be top three. It's just not what you like to see. A little too consistently there. I don't want to get into the birth certificate thing. Oh my God, that was we're going on Russian birth certificates now. KGB's getting them passports. I don't even know, but I don't know about that. But who knows? I mean, it's been known to happen before, so wouldn't put it past them. But I don't know. Well, I'll leave that one. I left my tinfoil hat at the cottage, so I won't go there. But there are some questions about Sensa, and I've had some of my own, and that clip's kind of brought them up again for me.
Yeah. I just couldn't get past them. Like, I watched them. You have to watch them away from the puck. Yeah,
that wasn't too long, eh, Grant? I wasn't too long there.
No. No, very good. Thank you. No, I mean, he's going high. He's going to be an NHL defenseman. He'll be a good one. But should he go top 5 in the draft? I really think that's a reach for him. I think there are better like Perek and Buum, just for two. They're so much more creative, and there's just so much more offensive potential with them. And I really think that's the guys that you have to. You're taking a chance on every defenseman. I mean, the stats that I'm telling you about, like, they're the outside of goalies, they're the players that teams go wrong with the most often. They're the hardest to project, but yet teams value it so much they take the high pick because guy can skate and he's big. But every draft, there's guys that I mean, I can go down the list. There's just it's in the dozens of guys since 2000 that were picked in the top 12 that did not pan out. So buyer beware to a certain degree, and I think Levshunov's one of the guys of the 6 that has the biggest chance to disappoint. Just because I don't think that his hockey sense is above average.
Now, do you think now, because of what you said, and let me preface this by saying I agree here with you mostly here, but just to play devil's advocate, do you think because of the fact that so many defensemen miss that, and you just said yourself, at worst, he may not be the impact player that they're wanting, but he is gonna play and he is gonna have a career. Do you think that maybe because of how prone defensemen are to not hitting when they pick, they have such a high bust rate? Do you think that a team may be inclined to take a guy like that higher, knowingly leaving some upside on the board because there is some safety with a pretty high floor there, that in the sense that he is going to play.
Well, when you consider the alternatives, I think, we all agree that the top 12 is very good this year. Like, if you, you pass on the forward, like, is Iginla safe? Like, I'd say he's safer than Levshunov. Lindstrom's pretty darn safe, Demidov.
If you want a defenseman, though.
Yeah, well, even the defenseman, like Buem, pretty hard to argue that the kid that shut down Boston College in the NCAA game, played 20-plus minutes, isn't a safe pick, with his feet. And
30 minutes.
We don't see Parekh. I'd be shocked if he turns into a Murphy or Ryan Murphy or a Merkley, or it's just he's too good, Yakimchuk might argue because of the parent skating issues but again, 30-goal scorer, tough, big. I find him a safer pick. I think he's got more upside. I think he's smarter than Levshunov, and he's also more physical. Levshunov is not an overly physical. That's another thing. You can be big and you can skate well, but if you aren't naturally mean, and I think Yakimchuk is, that's one of the things that gives me an edge on. And he's Canadian, the Belarusian. Yeah. If things don't go great for the Belarusian, he'd take puck, go home. Back to the KHL. He'll get the many ruble. They'll roll out the red carpet for him. So, he'll go get a Putin cap.
We got Grapes McCagg today.
What's that?
Grapes McCagg today.
Yeah. Some non-cherry stuff right there. Anyways, moving on. Listen, there is another defenseman here that I remember before this season. A lot of people were saying he could be the best in this draft. He was in the top 3 for sure, all that stuff. And throughout the season, he just fell and fell and fell and fell. And Rocco, you want to talk about Aaron Kiviharju. Let's have a look.
Yeah, so now we were mentioning we're going overrated, underrated based on, the quote unquote the list. The list, the quote unquote list that we're working off is Elite Prospects Consolidated Rankings. So we're not hammering on any one scouting source in particular, just the average of basically all the internet lists. So he's ranked 23rd as of right now. Aaron Kiviharju, not to be confused with Aaron Kiviharju. This is just single Aaron. He checks in at 5'9", 170 pounds, left-handed defenseman, suited up a handful of games for HIFK in the Liga this year. Missed the vast majority of the season due to injury, but he did come back to play for Team Finland at the U18s, which is what you're watching there against Team USA. He likes to play the role of a dynamic puck-moving defenseman, but my question is, at what level is he capable of really, truly excelling in that role? Now, the positives in his game are pretty apparent. His play with the puck is quite good. I'm going to give him some credit there, and he does have very soft hands. He can make some pretty nice touch plays when distributing the puck. He's more of a gets pucks through type of shooter than one with true power from the point. But again, he does find success playing this way at the junior level, at least. Skating wise, he does have good agility and lateral movement, and he can use his feet to deceive his opponents and open up lanes. He is pretty shifty, especially from a standstill. However, I do have some pretty serious concerns about his top speed. I find that he lacks an extra gear in his skating, and we can see that on a couple of occasions where he's either unable to close the gap or he straight up loses a foot race that he started with a lead. I also have some questions a little bit about his front to back pivots when he's changing direction, and they might be a half step behind being able to keep pace with a speedy NHL forward. Defensively is where his game really gives me a lot of concerns. He's very, very easily pushed around, even by other junior age players, and I don't like that whatsoever. He struggles immensely along the boards and behind the net. He does not do so well in puck battle scenarios at all. 50-50 pucks become more like 25%.
Nice pass.
Pucks there. He couldn't pin a message to a group chat, let alone a 200-pound forward to the boards. The dirty areas of the ice are not his friend at all, and just because of his size and his strength, there's really nothing at all that he can even do about it. The game is won and lost in these areas, and if junior players give him trouble, then how is he going to fare against true NHL competition? Due to his lack of size, strength, and projectable development in the defensive zone, he would need to make a career, in my opinion, as an offensive specialist if he's going to excel in the NHL. The problem with that is he lacks a truly elite element to his offensive game that might suggest he could be in the realm of a McCagg, a Hughes, a Fox, or even Lane Hudson. Two names that come to mind when I'm watching him are Erik Brannstrom and Sami Vatanen. Both of these guys were skilled, undersized, lacking elite top-end speed, and made careers in the league. And this is where I see his upside, even if he does make it. So Vatanen played 450 games or so. Brannstrom is trending around that same direction. Are these guys the guys that you want when the chips are down in the Stanley Cup Finals? Probably not. They played in the NHL, yep, with varying degrees of success. But are these a playoff warrior type players that are winning you championships? And the answer is not really. You can be small. You can be small and you can make it, but you've got to be the best. If you're going to be small, you have to be the best. And is this guy the best player on the ice? Anytime I watch him, the answer has been no. Not once have I watched him, and the answer has been yes. This guy's the best player on the ice. Can he run an NHL power play? Maybe. Second unit, maybe. Did I see anything jaw-dropping from him that suggests he's going to be an elite first power play quarterback? I didn't. So is that where, if that's where he ends up, is that what you want from a first-round pick? And to me, the answer is no, because even if he does make it and reaches what his upside is, that's still not the type of player that I think wins you games deep into a playoff run. Now I'm going to go through 4 teams. Okay, so we have 6'4", 6'2", 6'3", 6'5", 6'1", 6'2". It's the Dallas Stars. 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", 6'7", 6'5", 6'4". Edmonton Oilers. 6 foot, 6'4", 6'2", 6'1", 6'5", 6 foot. Florida Panthers. 6'1", 6 foot, 6'5", 6'3", 6'3". New York Rangers. 08, 5'11", Norris Trophy winner Adam Fox. So there's one guy. There's one guy in the Final Four that's under 6 foot, and guess what? He's the best. So is this guy the best? I don't think so. So where does that leave him fitting in, and where does that leave him? What does he do for you? What's his role? And when this time, I don't care about, like, the regular season. Yes, you have to make the playoffs, and I get that, but I don't care, because if you're not one of the Final Four teams, that means your team needs work. So if I'm building a championship caliber team, where does this guy fit in? And the answer is, for me, he doesn't.
You had me at the video. That was scary. I mean, you really went out on a limb there, Rocco, picking a 5'9" defenseman that can't skate as your overrated guy. But
well,
I can't disagree. I can't disagree with you, my friend.
Well, like, you know, in the first round, that's about as overrated as it gets to me.
Exactly. I mean, we've got him in the third round, and I mean, based on just looking at those highlights, I wouldn't pick him. I wouldn't pick him in the top 3 rounds. Obviously, you didn't show offensive highlights, and he's smart with the puck, and he can move it. And when he's got the puck in the offensive zone, very aware. You like his puck game, but
certainly
his pivots are not good. He doesn't have the speed to recover, as you could see from those highlights. Guys were blowing by him. And that's junior. That's 18 years old. That wasn't even the World Juniors. That was 18-year-olds. So, once you got the microscope on him, it happens every year. There's a kid that was really good when he was 15, 16, but, and he plays in Europe and he plays for his country above his age group and he gets points. And once you get the microscope on him, though, and you really look at him, there's warts, and definitely with him. And we'll give him a bit of a break, considering that he missed most of the season with injury. So he doesn't look anywhere near as good as he did last year at this time. So I think that there's going to be some improvement in his game. I hope so, because based on how he played at the U18s, I don't think he even makes the NHL. So if you got that worry, I don't see him going in the top 2 rounds. And the NHL guys that I talk to, they don't have him anywhere near the top 23 at this point.
No, and the hard thing for him, the big thing is injuries aside, and I'm all for cutting a kid a break who's been hurt. Like I really am. The problem with him is the things that he needs to improve on the most, he can't change.
Yeah, well,
no amount of hard work can make him 6'1", right? He's 5'9", so even if he reaches, his true top end potential, does he have that elite element to really become a plus impact, a move the needle in a positive fashion player at the NHL level?
Well, you can improve your skating, but he's got mechanical flaws that you can only improve. I think he can only improve his skating so much. So it's never going to be an above average. He's never going to be an above average NHL skater. I think that's safe to say. So 5'9".
Yeah. And that's where I came with Branstrom and Vatanen, because they are guys who are making careers, made careers as small players, right?
Yeah. Vatanen was a lot more mobile than this kid.
And that's what caps them, right?
Right. Vatanen is a better skater than,
Yeah, and that's why. So that's who I was kind of thinking as his top end would be.
Exactly. Vatanen. Yeah, but
who had a fine career, but
yeah, he'll never be as good a skater, I don't think, as Vatanen. So
no, yeah,
that's even I think a little too high a ceiling for him. But okay, let's get her on to we're doing the over unders here, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's time. Let's flip it to something a bit more positive, right? The diamonds in the rough, the guys who aren't talked about enough, according to you guys. Grant, we'll start with you. You want to talk about Stian Solberg? Yeah,
I featured him once before, and some of these clips will look familiar, but in part because we can't take clips from the World Championships. YouTube, that's a no-no with YouTube, so we can't get any more recent clips. But just keep a close eye on him here. You'll see what I think is the offensive upside that he has. In addition to, it's very clear to see that he's a mobile, big defenseman that's physical. I don't think really that there's any holes in his game. Now, this is playing in the Norwegian playoffs, where he excelled. Now, he wasn't a regular on the power play. He played 19 seconds a game on the power play, yet he had 9 points in the playoffs, which was top 7 among all Norwegian defensemen. I thought he flashed his offensive skills quite often in the playoffs. I watched quite a few of his games, and he's one of the main reasons why his team made it all the way to the final before losing. I think it was in 6 games, but strong skating skills, handles the puck well, solid puck mover, puck carrier. Consolidated rankings has him 50th overall. Now, I think that's crazy. At this point, after his World Championships, he came into the World Championships, played top pairing, top penalty kill, top power play, 23 minutes a game, which led his team as an 18-year-old. Now, Norway, they weren't blown out of the water I don't know if they gave up more than 5 or 6 goals in a game. If they did, it was 1. They were competitive in every game. And one of the main reasons was Solberg. He was steady back there. He ended the tournament even in the plus minus, which considering that his team is, not one of the top 10 at the Worlds, was amazing considering that he was up against the top line on every other team. And he did not look out of place in any of the games that I thought. He was aggressive. He, I saw it in the playoffs, and the stats proved it out. He led the Norwegian playoffs in penalty minutes. And again, this is an 18-year-old kid playing against men. He has no fear whatsoever, aggressive, but I love his skating too. I think he's smart. I think he's got offensive skills. You add everything together, and for me, it's a question. It's a toss-up between him and the guy that Rocco is going to feature as the 7th best defenseman in this draft class. We all have the top 6 that I think everybody sort of ranks above everyone else. But then who's next? For me, it's either him or the guy that Rocco is going to feature. So that's how much I like him. I think if it was up to me, I would look at him in the top 20 of this draft class, especially if you're a team that needs a defenseman. You're picking 15 to 20. I think that he's got to be seriously considered because I don't see a hole in his game. I think he's severely underrated. I think NHL teams haven't, because he's playing in Norway, haven't got to see him a heck of a lot. None of the NHL scouts I know went over to the World Championships because there's only 3 or 4 prospects that were playing in them. They're looking at tape just like we are. I mean, NHL GMs are there, assistant GMs, some scouts, the European scouts, obviously, but a lot of North American crossovers stayed in North America, kept scouting here because there just weren't, there weren't enough guys to warrant going over to, and none of the really, really top guys. The Celebrini had played, maybe, but Norway had Solberg and Nygaard, Helenius for Finland. But other than that, there was a couple others, and that's it. Now, I just like look at the that was my favorite. I think the rush that he made there, but he did that throughout the World Championships too. He joined the rush, and especially when Norway needed a goal, he scored 2 goals, had an assist, but they were both nice goals. Him joining the rush reminded me a lot of Nemec when he played in his draft year and just had so much confidence playing against men. It's one of the things that attracts me to him so much, that his confidence level for his age. He played 23 minutes, and I look back, Nemec played 18. Slovakia, a little better team, obviously, than Norway, but not substantially better. They're better, but Norway was I think they only finished a couple places behind Slovakia in the overall standings. And he played more than Slavkovsky did. He played more than Owen Power did. Any high draft picks in recent years that have gone and played in the World Championships, this kid played more. Now, yes, it was on a lesser team, but I think, even Norway is a very competitive team. And for a kid to step in and be their go-to guy, it's just so impressive. In speaking to some scouts that watched him at the World Championships, they concede that he's a riser. Last year, Tom Willander was the guy at the end of the year. Typically, if a guy's rising, they'll go back and keep looking at tape, and that guy will keep rising, especially if you like what you see. Willander, I think, on a lot of lists was late first, early second, going into the under 18s last year. Had a very good one. He rose all the way to 11. I think we could see a similar thing with Solberg, where they go back, they have a better look at him, the discussions, he's a riser. He was very impressive. All the GMs and stuff are seeing him at the World Juniors. They like him. It can affect lists, and I would not be surprised if you ended up seeing him go top 20, because after the top 6 defensemen, there's a little bit of a gap there, but there's always teams that pick a defenseman from 14 to 24 that maybe surprises you. You know, 1 or 2 defensemen. That's the guy I think that's going to surprise. 50th overall, there's no way. There's no way that he's not a top 40 guy. I think it's a given. And I think now that he's for sure going in the first round, wouldn't surprise me if it's top 20.
Tough to disagree with you at all there. And this is a guy that obviously you've mentioned to me a few times through the years. I've had a chance to watch his progression, and I'm impressed every time I see either a full game or even just clips that you put together. He's always doing something positive. He's always affecting his team in a positive way, and you're noticing him for positive reasons. And you like to see that from the back end, right? Especially like you said, playing in a men's league, playing big minutes, earning the coach's trust. Those are all green flags, especially from a young defenseman. So Grant says he's in his top 20. Maybe I'm going to bring this conversation back full circle. Grant is in your top 18, Chicago. Maybe he's, Bob McKenzie had, what do you say, a clear top 15. Well, maybe we got Solberg in there. That's 16. Maybe the guy I'm about to do is 17. Maybe Jiricek's 18, and maybe there's Chicago's logic. They're gonna make sure they're getting one of these defensemen inside the top 20. We'll see.
Yeah. How about we get to it, Rocco? Yeah. Let's go. My favorite name from this draft class, Dominic Badinka. Let's have a look.
Inky Badinky Donkey. I like that. 43rd on Elite Prospects Consolidated ranking. I think that number's a big mistake, and we're going to see him call on the first day of the draft here. Much to the opposite of what I was saying about Kiviharju, Badinka checks in at 6'3", 185-pound right-hand D. He split time this year between the SHL and the U20 league with the Malmo Redhawks. He put up 13 points in 17 games to start the year at the U20 level. He was then called up, played the final 33 against men in the SHL, and he was not sent back down after being called up. So that says a lot about what that organization thought about him and his play and his progression throughout the year, that they had the confidence to leave a draft-eligible defenseman up in the SHL for the whole season. Aside from having prototypical size at 6'3", he combines that with a very fluid skating stride, which results in us seeing one of the better combinations of size and skating ability that's in this draft period, honestly. As we continue down the list of traits that NHL teams love in their defenseman, we get to his puck handling ability. Now, he doesn't have the flash and dash as the elite guys, like I talked about earlier, but he is a very, very capable puck mover in his own right, and that really is what teams need from the back end, especially as we get down to the nitty-gritty of the last 2 rounds of the playoffs. We very, very rarely see this guy panic under pressure with the puck. Poise and confidence are 2 words that popped up over and over and over every time I read my notes on him on the games that I've had the chance to watch. He seems to maintain a sense of calm even in very high pressure situations, or with a forechecker coming to finish a hard hit on him. He does not panic, does not move out of the way. At times he's almost a little too calm. Sometimes that might be one thing to pick against him. And when we do see him make an error with the puck, it can sometimes be a result of a little bit of overconfidence. That said, I'd much rather coach a confident player to move it a little bit quicker than to teach a timid player how to stand in there with confidence. So if you're going to have that issue, I'd rather have it the way that he does. Like I said, he's more than willing to take a hit in order to make a play, and he's not bothered whatsoever by the physical aspect of the game. He's capable, very capable in the offensive zone. He has a good point shot, and obviously his skating helps a lot. Although I don't think he's ever going to be someone who really racks up a ton of points at the NHL level, but he will be able to contribute and chip in. I think there's a little untapped potential there with him. Defensively, he seemed more than capable of handling the physical game against men, which bodes well for his chances of doing so at the NHL level. And unlike Kivi Harju, he was able to hold his own just fine when it came to dirty area play, board battles behind the net, defending the cycle, things like that you see. I mean, that's what the playoffs is. I say it over and over, but just watch it. That's where the game's played is along the boards, up and down the ice, and he does well in those areas. His decision-making can use some fine-tuning a little bit at times, but that's to be expected, I think, with a teenager playing in a men's league. There's nothing there that suggests there's any issues with his hockey sense. I think overall that could end up being a strong suit for him. But there's a little bit of learning to do, but nothing that stands out as a red flag that'd be atypical for a player of his age. He's not necessarily a freight train of a physical player. He might not run guys over all night long, but he is more than happy to finish his hits and to engage in the physical side of the game, which is important to me. So that combination of his size, his skating, his poise with the puck, his confidence with the puck, and his ability to move the puck, that's exactly what NHL teams look to fill their blue lines, especially when the playoffs comes. That's exactly what they want. Bedinka has all the tools to be a bit of a jack of all trades type of defenseman, chipping in a little bit in all three zones and being a highly effective 200-foot player, I think. And Artem Zubin in Ottawa comes to mind. They're the same size. They bring a lot of the same positive attributes to the game. And his best games are when you don't notice him. And that there is something to be said about a defenseman who goes out there and isn't noticed and have that be a compliment to his play. And I think that's the type of role where this guy might end up fitting in down the road. I was going to list off all the size of the defenseman here, but I got a little excited about it. Did it for Kivi Harju, but 6'3", 185. The average of those 24 defensemen who played in game one of round 3, the average size is 6'2" 2/3. So, this guy fits right in at 6'3". He's exactly what they want, and he's got all the tools that are going to make him an effective player, not just in the regular season, but when it actually matters. And for my money, if I'm in charge of an NHL team with a first-round pick and I'm given the choice between these two guys, give me the guy with the size, the skating ability, and the projectable three-zone play. They say pretty often, you are what you draft, and when the game gets hard every spring, I know what type of team I'm going to try and build, and there's always going to be room for the kind of guy with Bedinka's skill set, especially with that confidence, man. He's got it, I think. So that's a guy that I think very firmly belongs inside the first round for sure, and I go so far to say he belongs inside the top 20 of this draft.
Very nice. Brett, you're muted.
Just like Solberg, he's got a lot of confidence for sure. There's some similarities in those two, but also who he looked like there with the long black flowing hair in the back. Bit like Hockey Jesus, I thought. Is that why you picked him there?
Well, birds of a feather, my man.
Yeah, there you go. No, we both like Bedinka a lot. NHL guys didn't get to see him a lot. It's one of those overage, like he's a late birthday, right? So he didn't play in any U18s. Wasn't picked for the World Junior team, the Czechs, even though I think that was a mistake.
Yeah.
In part probably because he's playing in Sweden. They like their guys to stay put. Juracek got to go and he didn't because Juracek was playing in Czech, right? So, but I like him more than Juracek for sure. And will he go ahead of him in the draft? Maybe not, because I don't know how much exposure he got. But I think the team, if he doesn't go top 25, there's going to be a team getting a really, really good prospect, good value.
Yeah.
Hopefully Ottawa at 27.
Hint.
Yeah.
Good thing Pierre's not there anymore. You might actually have a chance to get him.
Don't even. No, not today. No.
No.
I'm not going there today.
We got 40 seconds to wrap her up, Shayne. Can you?
Yeah, no, that's it. I got the boss here texting me like, "Hey, are you guys done yet?" So, anyways, that'll do it for us this week. We thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the show. Now, I have to mention this, okay? Based on our recent numbers, it's about 80% of you watching that aren't subscribed. Okay, it doesn't cost anything and it genuinely does help the show. So, the draft is a month away, right? We strongly encourage you to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, get an alert whenever we upload a new show. Also, don't forget to go check out recruits.ca for all your draft and Habs info. And let us know in the comments who you think is the most underrated and overrated prospects in this year's draft. Big shout out again to Insta Customs for sweet gear. And guys, until next time, take care.
Cheers.
See you.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.